What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video, the video that you guys have been waiting for the last week, and it is of course finally my review on the Avengers game, or my brutally honest review, because I don't want to be biased on this game a lot in terms of what I got to see, but the queue was like 2 hours long and it was just absolutely crazy, and you get about, I guess, give or take like 30 minutes with the game. Now of course it is the 8-day demo, and swapping between 5 different playstyles felt a little bit too much to like fully digest in that time, because you didn't really have the option to go ahead and switch with the characters at any point. It just kind of like transitions into that in different stages of course the 8-day demo. Now first things first, okay, I feel like maybe it could just be me, like a personal thing, but where I've seen so much of the 8-day demo since it's of course been released, and since loads of people have been playing it especially as well, nothing really threw me back a whole lot, I guess you could say. I mean, it was great, but because we've seen all of this stuff before, I guess the only thing left was for me to try it out myself, and it was good, don't get me wrong. Now first of all, there's a thing called the Harm Room, and basically it will act as an in-game training facility where you'll be able to take on like steadily more difficult waves of enemies as you learn each character's specific abilities. Now that's a really cool thing, and Thor was a great person to play with, and one thing that I thought was cool that I guess maybe I just didn't notice exactly in the demo, but you can pin enemies on walls with the hammer and then call it back. So for example, if you press L2 it aims, and then if you are on an enemy basically directly aiming at them, you have like a little circle that will fill up to make it more powerful, and then if you press R2 it will of course throw his hammer, and then that just comes right back to you. So I thought that was a little cool thing. You can kind of, I guess, consistently keep doing that. But one thing that I was a little disappointed with, or I guess you could say disappointed as a whole maybe, was Iron Man. Now I don't know, again, it could just be the demo, alright, and because we've seen so much, and I think maybe we need something refreshing essentially, you know, to see and try out, but for some reason I was very excited to play with him, and I felt it would be a lot more fun than it was. Now good things to point out, the combat was great with him, don't get me wrong, it was great, but nothing really blows you away, at least for me anyway. So for example, you can fly around quite freely, which is a really good thing, and to some extent it's almost like web swinging in Spider-Man PS4. The more you do it, the more you'll get better, and you know, the more you'll learn new tricks. But you of course have like, you know, your chest beam, whatever you want to call it, that then fires out, and of course you then can control like the direction that will go in, which again is a nice, you know, little feature, but nothing like insanely amazing. But you can just go ahead and swipe from left to right and basically take out the enemies. But another thing is that it almost felt like waves. So to give you a better perspective, when a character who can hover or fly, basically like Thor or Iron Man, until everything is dead, you'll basically just be stuck there, and I guess if that makes sense, you're just like stuck hovering until everything is dead basically, and then of course new things get brought in. So it did kind of feel very much wavy, and of course until everything's gone you then move on, it'll throw more things at you, etc. Now I personally don't want this to be something to play through the game completely, as it does feel very basic and nothing fun, if I had to really pinpoint it down. Again, with Iron Man, I think I had a lot more expectations, probably just, I guess from the footage we have seen from Gamescom as well, but again, they didn't show this in that demo, so it was a lot more difficult to do other things. They just literally allowed us to play what has been shown already. So in things like when you see him doing the combat in, you know, at nighttime in the city and stuff like that, I didn't get to try that part out. So maybe my perspective on him could be a lot more different in the future. But right now, I mean, the only thing that was great was the fact that you can freely fly around, and that there's going to be some skill to some extent. Buttons are pretty basic like any other combat game. Like, I'll give you an example. If you hold triangle, it takes you to any character's super heavy attack, if you will. I mean, there's no actual name, but if you hold it down, you do the most powerful attack there is. You got circle, which is your dodge, and if I have to be honest, I would say the combat very much feels like the Arkham games, and Spider-Man as well, because with Spider-Man, like when you dodge and things slow down and, you know, it kind of makes you feel like really badass, that's exactly what it does in this game. Again, it could be an option you could toggle on and off, or it could vary in different, you know, scenes essentially, but it kind of gave that feel. And the brutality to some extent, and like if you've played the Arkham games, you'll know exactly what I mean. The brutality in the combat and making you feel like you are actually doing damage is there, and all of the characters or enemies, if you will have like a health bar above them. Again, I can't remember if this was an option that you can toggle on and off. Being completely honest, which probably was a stupid thing, I did just skip through all the tips and tricks, and so I kind of figured it all out by myself because I was just really excited really to play the game. Now, Hulk is the same thing as you'd expect, overpowered to some extent. If you hold triangle with him, he'll pick up someone near him and just throw them. That's what makes him fun. Black Widow, again, nothing really that throws you off completely, but a cool power is you can go invisible and quite literally just take everyone out to some extent. Of course, again, that will be limited like all the other stuff, but I keep saying that like these things ain't blowing me away completely. It could just bottom line down to me covering this game so much and seeing this demo so much. Maybe I felt like I've seen everything in the demo that I was kind of like expecting, if that makes sense. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the only thing left was for me to literally try it out myself to get the feel for it. But everything was exactly the same that you guys are basically seeing in the background. Now, the game did have a few glitches, not gonna lie, like characters have, like I mentioned, the health bars, and when you're about to finish them off, you can always do something like a fatality, but the camera just gets stuck in one place and don't move around. Sometimes, like if you're dodging or whatever, you just completely go through a character, but all of this stuff is just general bugs that will get solved easily, definitely. It's going to be done in an update either between now and when the games are released, or a day one patch. It's going to be along the lines of one of those things. Now, the thing that was great and that did throw me off, that at the end of the demo, it basically showed a lot more of things that we haven't seen. So for example, you'll have a choice in terms of co-op missions or a dedicated hero mission. And of course that kind of goes into the Warzone thing, and all of these will progress into the story in their own way. So that also got me wondering if multiple endings will actually be a thing. So it gave you these options to then go ahead and move forward with. Each character will also have a crap ton of costumes. I mean, they went through the skill trees. You can upgrade things like the blasters on Iron Man's hand, the chest little circle ring thing, again, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm just going top of my head. You can upgrade little parts on people's suits, which I did like. I thought that was a neat little touch. Microtransactions, they did basically say to us, look, there's not going to be microtransactions in the game, so I'm guessing all of these upgrades and whatever you want to call it will actually be doable purely by going through the skill tree, and then when you go through the skill tree, it unlocks more things, and it's just like a continuing cycle. That's how it does seem it's going to be to me. They did also reconfirm some things, for instance, you know, just the whole story plot. So you got AIM, who wants to cure the Inhumans. You then have AIM also using SPIN technology alongside the Synthoid AIs, etc. to confront the superheroes. You're not just playing as Kamala Khan in the campaign. The campaign is for her, well, it's basically from her perspective. So you start as her, and then you unlock new heroes as you take the next step, which each one through the campaign. And then there's regions all over the world and maybe beyond the Earth. And again, well, all the leak footage we were seeing about the map and so forth, it pretty much is just that. When you go onto your menu, you look at the map, it essentially is the Earth. You've got little regions. In these little regions, you can then hover over X, Y, and Z, and it will tell you exactly what that mission is. But to really sum my review down into a nutshell, was the game is a mixture of loads of other games that were very big, kind of tied into one. So it really does feel like a cross between Arkham games and Spider-Man PS4. Personal opinion. It's nothing that completely throws you off where you're like, this game is really unique, it's completely different. I am still very much excited for the game, but I feel like they need to show something new at this stage, because nothing really got me like on the edge of my seat, if that makes sense. To give you a better perspective, I guess I'm just trying to think like the best way to really describe this. If you were to take the combat from an Arkham game and then you replace web swinging in Spider-Man with Iron Man, and then you basically merged it into a new world. That's basically how the game feels. Then it has the little things like the fatality, so it's like taking little mixtures of other games, implementing it into one. One thing that does scare me though is it does very much feel like, especially with the upgrades and what be it, it's going to be like a Destiny game. If you've ever played Destiny, you will know what I mean. Again, it's a very confusing thing because I've never really hardcore played Destiny. I've never really been a fan of a Destiny game at all, right? I've played it a handful of times and it was fun, but like I wasn't really too bothered about the in-depth stuff on the game. But with this, it does feel like it is driving into a Destiny kind of route. So when you hear me say that, it does feel like a mixture of different games and taking little sectors from these games that are fun and then implementing it into this one game. It really does feel like that overall. But if you did play the demo, the A-Day demo at any of these recent gaming events, you will get exactly what I mean. And I want you to leave your thoughts in the comment section below on what your opinions were. But overall, to really sum this review up, it's a great game. It does have potential to be Game of the Year, but I think they need to show something completely different, put us into a different region, release the beta for the game as well, and maybe not give too much away about the game, and lastly, improve, I guess, the gameplay in general, and not really make players feel like you're stuck to a certain thing, and really definitely don't go through the Destiny route in terms of style, because I don't think that will work. But guys, that was my review. These are just key things I wanted to point out. Overall, it does have potential to be a Game of the Year, but hopefully between now and the release date, they definitely do up the game a lot more, if that makes sense. Well, it has to make sense, I guess. But guys, I will see you in the next one. Till then, have yourselves a ridiculously amazing day, and adios amigos.